Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good middle of the night, whatever it is. Hey, thanks for checking out the Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore. This is episode 24, and I really appreciate you joining me today or tonight. We're going to talk about 99 questions asked before taking that next head football coach or assistant football coach job. Again, 99 questions asked before taking that next job. Welcome to the Coach's Locker podcast. You are listening to the Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore, a place for all coaches to call home. The Coach's Locker podcast is a part of the Football Coaching Podcast Network. Please visit footballcoachingpodcast.com to hear and see our entire lineup of top football coaches coming to you every single podcast with valuable information to help you and your program. The Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore exists to help prepare coaches to be hired for the job of their dreams and to provide coaches with dynamite resources to become even more successful in their field. You can reach me on Twitter at Coach Fore, that's at COACHFORE, and my podcast home is at 8laces.org/podcast. That's 8laces, EIGHTLACES.org/podcast. Welcome to the Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore. Now, let's get after it. So these podcasts on the job search process have been real popular, a lot of downloads. If it's something that you are interested in, the job search, the resume, the cover letter, the interview, etc., we're going to be hitting those, this part of the year. And I would love if you would give us some feedback on iTunes, just to, say something nice there about what you're hearing, what we're providing to coaches. Or also, on social media is another good thing. We love it. Send me a shout out at Coach Fore, at COACHFORE. But hey, let's get into this. So years ago, Football Scoop picked up this article I wrote on my website, and it kind of went viral, so to speak, in the football coaching world. It was a really good thing. 99 questions to ask before taking that next head football job. I suppose you could apply this not just a head football coaching job, but really any coaching job in any type of sports. And so I think it also applies not only to a head football coach, but also an assistant coach, okay? And again, not only football, but really any sport. So we're going to kind of go through this list. We're not going to go through all 99. We just don't have the time. But I'll tell you, you'll be able to check out this list at my show notes, 8laces.org, 8laces, EIGHTLACES.org/podcast. I've got show notes there, and I'll have a link to the article I wrote on this 99 questions asked before taking that next head coaching job. Number one, I think really important to check out, who was the last head coach, okay? Who was the last head coach? You want to find out kind of what went wrong. What went wrong here or what went right, and this guy is off. He just got a big promotion, and that's why they're hiring a new guy. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you can put a percentage on it, but I'd say 8 to 9 out of 10 times you're applying for a job, there's an opening because something went wrong, right? So back a long time ago, 2006, I left a school here in Southern California called Linfield, and I went to Linfield Christian, and I went to a school called Capistrano Valley Christian. Now, I left that job at Linfield. It was a great place to work. It's a beautiful campus, private school, had, pretty good resources. Not great, but pretty good resources. But I wanted to be an athletic director one day. And my athletic director there at Linfield was actually married to the superintendent. So I knew, there's no upward momentum here. This guy is going to be here forever. Turns out, that didn't happen. Long story short, not a part of this podcast. But I left for, a better opportunity. And one of the things as I was, I told him, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to go find another job, and I really want to be an AD type of deal. I came across this job, actually Capistrano Valley Christian. The principal contacted me because, and here's a good point on the job search process and just being a good human being, I suppose, but the principal, he and I coached baseball, right? He was coaching baseball at Capital Valley Christian. I was coaching baseball at Linfield. And just talking before one game in 2002, we kind of really hit it off. Just, again, two assistant coach. Actually, he was the head coach. I was an assistant baseball coach. And we were just talking about each other's schools, some of the programs. Found out that he was responsible for a retreat their school did. I was responsible for a retreat my school did. So, again, we just hit it off. We, played each other 2 or 3 times there, non-league games, and traded some emails. And, again, just ended up kind of connecting. And then, sure enough, he reached out to me, let me know, hey, I know you're at Linfield, great school, probably not interested in leaving, but we have a head football coach opening down here. And I was like, holy smokes. Like, he had no idea I had, resigned, and I was kind of looking, and they also had an AD job open, and a couple other, spots I could fill there. So, anyhow, one of the things I did was I, tried to find out, okay, why do they have a head coaching opening? Well, at the end of the day, because that school had been, they had been like every year, like they're in the playoffs, and I think they'd go to the quarterfinals, every year. They'd win one playoff game and then not really make it over that hump. And I was pretty convinced that, we'd probably be able to do that over there. We had scrimmaged them, I think, in 2002. So I knew, saw them on film against other teams, and I think they had a little better athletes than we did at Linfield most of the time. And we went to a couple semifinal games over there at Linfield my 5 years there. So I was feeling like, man, this would be a great place to go. Well, they had a guy there for a long time, maybe 15 years or so, AD, head football coach, and he was a pretty good coach. He left. They just hired a wrong guy. Young guy came in, a walk-on coach, recent college grad. They just made a bad hire, to be honest with you, right? And so they ended up going, they were like 2-8 and then 0-10. And so that's what happened. I found out who the head coach was, found out why they had problems, looked into the program a little bit. And then question number 2, why is the last head coach gone? Okay, why is he gone? What happened? Question number 3, what did he do last year, last 3 years, last 5 years? Okay, what kind of situation is that head coach leaving? Number 4, what areas did the former head coach succeed in? Did they have a lot of success offensively, defensively? Was this a program systematic wide issue as to why he's leaving? So what areas did the former head coach struggle with? Okay, so I think knowing those couple of things right there, just like if you're going in as an athletic director and you're evaluating the school you're interested in going to as an AD, this athletic program, what are they successful in? What are they not successful in? And can you have a positive influence on those things? Number 6, obviously, this is a really big one. What is the salary? And what are the benefits? Question 7. So salary and benefits. Nobody got in this line of work to become rich. You just didn't. Maybe at the college level, some of those top 20 jobs, you can get rich. But, and so maybe some guys get into I know for a fact some guys are trying to get into the college level because they think it pays so well. They don't understand. You're going to have to do a 10 to 15-year grind a lot of times unless you hook on with, the exact guy at the right time. Folks, I tweeted out a couple of weeks ago, and people did not believe me. I did a resume for an NCAA Division III coach 2 years ago. NCAA Division III defensive coordinator made $10,000. Again, NCAA Division III defensive coordinator, $10,000. The guy was about 27 years old, and I said, dude, how do you even live on less than $1,000 a month? Well, I get food at the school, and I have housing at the school, and my parents, they're well off, and they're going to give me till I'm 30 to chase this college dream. Well, all the better to you, young man. That's awesome. But, there's a school who reached out to me within the last couple weeks, NAIA school, not NC2A, NAIA school. They're looking for a strength coach who is also going to coach linebackers or D-line for them, okay? And this position pays $35,000 to $40,000. So, people were like, I tweeted out, a little information about that, what the salary is, and people, sent me some DMs and emails going, dude, there's no way a college strength coach job pays $35,000 to $40,000. Yes, it does, okay? Because at the end of the day, folks, it's all about supply and demand, right? They're going to, if they put that up on Football Scoop, they're going to have probably 100 guys interested in that position, maybe more, okay? So, but I think as you evaluate that next job, the salary and benefits, how do those line up to your current job? Is it going to be a raise? Maybe you're moving to a different state. Maybe you're moving to a different part of your own state. Do those salary and benefits afford you, the same lifestyle that you and your family are now used to? When I took my first coaching job ever, I was a senior in high school. I volunteered. When I took my second coaching job, I went back to that same high school where I went to school. I never even asked about, how much I made. It was a stipend, I think $1,500 in the mid-90s. I was stoked to get paid to coach football. But now as I've moved up through the ranks and I'm 35 years old and I'm married and I have kids, obviously those demands have totally changed. So some guys I talk to are in tremendous situations. They're married to a nurse who makes $120,000. They can take. I had a guy tell me last spring. He's like, well, I make about $75,000 here in my state as AD head football coach. My wife and I, we've crunched all the numbers. She can get a job anywhere in America, and I can probably take about a $30,000 pay cut. I was like, man. And he said, for the right job. So here's a husband and wife, no kids, great paying job for the female, the wife, and he's like, I just want to go somewhere that cares about winning, and I can afford to take a loss. One of the dumbest things in the world that happens here in California, I know it happens in other states too, got into this discussion a little bit on Twitter the other day, is they'll cap your years that you can take into a lot of school districts. For instance, in their district teacher contract, okay, the contract between the teaching union and the school district, it'll have in there, hey, we can only bring in, a new hire can only bring in a maximum of 7 years. And a lot of people don't even know this. Okay, a lot of teachers don't, even at their own school district. I got into a conversation online with a coach down in Orange County, California, who said like, "Oh, this is ludicrous. My district's awesome. They don't do this." Well, he said they don't cap your years. You can bring in as much as you want, and he referenced the coach who had done that. And it took me 5 minutes to look it up because it's always in the teacher contract online. And this is a real secret that especially, I don't know about other states, but especially in California, folks, if you're in California, you're looking around, and I'm sure other states you could find this too. You want to look up and find the teacher contract. Okay, it's online. It's in the human resources area of the website usually. But get a copy of that teacher contract because, and I've had this happen to numerous candidates, a guy with 15, 18, 20 years coaching, right? A solid coach who sees an attractive job open here in Southern California, goes through the process, goes to the third interview. He's burned a lot of hours, a lot of time. His name's now out there as being a guy who is just, out interviewing for another job. His community, his parents, his admin gets pissed off at him. Comes to find out that district only accepted 7 years. So he calls me. He's like, dude, I never knew this is how. He's been in the same place for 18 years. He never knew. He never knew that districts limit you on years. And so he would have to lose 11 years, okay, on a salary scale. It's really hard to equate that to money, but, you're looking at a cut of probably $30,000 to $40,000 maybe. you're looking at maybe going from, I don't know, let's say 100,000 to 70,000. Okay. And so it's a really, really big deal to know what the salary and benefits are, to know what kind of years you're going to be able to bring in. Okay. So study that stuff. Try to figure those things out, before you go in for any kind of interviews, because those are big. Those are really big things. You might have your benefits totally covered at your school. There's a district, Victor Valley Unified School District up here near me. They pay 100% of teacher benefits. Okay. District I'm in, we pay about I was up there in that same local area. Okay. As a teacher coach, I paid about $380 for my benefits. So, as you're evaluating, that's $380 per month. As you're evaluating jobs, $380 times 12, whatever that is, $380 times 10 is $3,800. So, you're looking at $4,400 out of your paycheck right away. If you went from that school where you didn't have to pay a dime, let's say the salaries were even, $70,000, but now you're going over there and you're paying $380 a month, some families that could be a little bit of a hit. So you really got to look into those things. I advise you look into those things before you even interview. Number 8, what kind of retirement benefits are there? Number 9, does your district give tenure to teachers, coaches? How does that work? Tenure in California, most school districts, once you've taught there for 2 years and all your evaluations, observations have gone well, you have tenure in that district, meaning it becomes a lot more difficult for them to get rid of you. Very difficult here in California to be fired as a tenured teacher. And so if you've been in a place for 12 years and you transfer out to a new public school, you're taking a really big risk, because if something goes bad, they can just get rid of you, right? You don't have to give really very many reasons at all if you're not tenured. So that teacher tenure, district to district changes a little bit. Sometimes it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So you want to figure out how that works before you go in. Now, question number 10, who's going to be my immediate supervisor? Who am I answering to? Am I answering as the head coach, no matter the sport, football, basketball, golf, lacrosse? As the coach, am I reporting to the principal or am I reporting to the AD? Number 11, how will I be evaluated as a coach? Who's evaluating me? Is the principal evaluating me? He's got a staunch athletic background because you've done your research on him. He's got a great background in athletics. He's hired and fired 30 coaches in his last 15 years. He supports athletics. He or she is at every contest. They love sports. Is that person evaluating you? Is that person your immediate supervisor, someone who really gets it? Or are you being evaluated and reporting to somebody who doesn't get it, who doesn't understand sports, and they're only concerned about responding to parents and keeping parents happy? Folks, it makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. Those two questions. How will I be evaluated? Who's my immediate supervisor? Questions 10 and 11. Those are very important. Number 12, who's responsible for hiring and firing my staff? Spoke with a coach last week. He's kind of got into it hot and heavy here with his principal, because his principal last year forced him to bring on some guys. He was a brand new head coach. Principal forced him to hire some guys. Then she comes after him because those guys weren't very good. Well, you forced me to bring these guys on. What am I supposed to do now? So, how are you responsible for hiring and firing? Can you bring in your own staff? Are there positions on staff for those guys? Okay. Or are you basically being told who to hire and fire? Question 13, is there a stipend for coaching? If so, how much? That kind of goes into the salary and benefits. A lot of schools are going to pay you a certain amount as your salary, and then they're going to pay you a certain amount stipend. So you might make an extra $4,500 or $6,000 or $3,000 as a stipend. Usually it's nice little, covers your gas maybe type of deal. Question 14, where do most of your faculty and staff live? I think that's a good question. especially if you're going to be moving to an area. You got to be able to look at and see, can I afford this? Again, I don't know every neighborhood in the United States, or every area, but here in California, if you're living out in Riverside and, a house, house payments $2,000, or up in high desert, house payments $1,800, and you want to go to a great job at San Clemente with Coach Ortiz, or down there in North San Diego County, Torrey Pines High School with Coach Gladnick, two very expensive areas. So are you going to be able to afford it, right? Or are you going to have to, live 30 minutes away and commute? What's that going to do to your family? So where do most of your faculty and staff live that's a big question to kind of figure out, what your living housing situation is going to be. Question 15, what are the assistants doing? The assistants that are currently there, okay? Are you walking into something where they're all leaving? You got to, hire brand new staff? Are you walking into a situation where, most of them are pretty good coaches and they're all wanting to stay, depending on who the head guy is going to be? So that's a key question, okay? And it's an important one for you to figure out, through the interview process. So I encourage you to check that part of it out, is the assistant coach situation. Question number 16, how many assistants are on campus with jobs as faculty or staff? How many assistant coaches are on campus? That's a really good thing. These days, guys in Texas are going, what? What do you mean? Everybody's on campus. I hear it's pretty good out there. It's different. It's different here, okay? California, I hear it's becoming different, in a lot of states out there. You might not be able to have a staff of 10 guys that are all on campus. But figuring out, okay, hey, our defensive coordinator, he's a campus supervisor. Linebackers coach teaches English. The secondary coach, he's out. He's a fireman, local fireman. Your D-line coach coaches reading, special ed department, whatever it is. It's kind of good to get a lay of the land there with the assistants and what they're doing, how many are on campus, off campus. Number 17, can you remove any of those assistants if you deem that it's necessary? Can you remove any of those assistants? Okay, that's a very important question. What kind of power control do you have over those assistants that are currently on staff? Can you hire any coaches for faculty staff jobs on campus? I can't tell you how big this is in creating a tremendous athletic program and a tremendous program, sports program within the total athletic program. Getting coaches on campus, getting security guards on campus, getting whatever it is, okay, aides, special ed aid on campus who are coaches. So that's a whole nother podcast in itself probably, but that's a really big deal. And, what's the school's culture? Vista Marietta here in Southern California has something like 22 football coaches on campus. That's tremendous. I've worked on staffs where there was 2 of us, maybe 3 of us on campus. So it's a whole different world, So how many guys can you try to get on campus? 19, how many coaches are on the staff? Good question to ask. 20, how much are the coaches paid? Are these guys getting, decent stipends compared to the area? Are they getting awful stipends? Are you having to fundraise for those stipends? Okay, so you want to have a really good idea of what your staff's going to be like. I don't think enough coaches ask these kind of questions. Do I have control over how much the coaches are paid? Okay, maybe you got a great defensive coordinator who's an up-and-coming head coach, and they're only paying him $3,000. You sit down and meet with him, and he says, man, I got a kid on the way. My wife's, giving me some fits about spending all this time coaching for $3,000. What can you do? Well, does your district allow you to go fundraise for an extra $3,000 for that guy? So having a good lay of the land of the coaching staff, how they're paid, who's on campus, all that sort of thing. 22, do you compensate coaches for spring and summer? I worked at a private school where we were able to get compensated for our work during the spring and summer. I worked at another private school where we weren't allowed to do that. I've worked at public schools where, heck no, you're not getting paid for spring and summer. In fact, you got to buy your own. You got to buy your own spirit wear. You got to buy your own shirts and shorts and all that. So, man, it's different all over the place. So real important that you have an idea there on the coaches and pay and compensation. Can I charge kids for summer camp participation and pay coaches out of this? That's something some schools are able to do. Can I have a camp? 24. Can I have a camp for the community to help raise funds for the program and coaching staff? 25. Are there any built-in raises on a year-to-year basis? The district I currently work in now, Morongo Unified, that's a pretty neat thing they do, and some districts do that. Every year you're there, just like, teaching, you're going to move up on that salary. Well, down on the scale, I guess. You move down on the scale, you make more money. And then you move over in columns, you make a little more money. So that's nice for coaches. You stay at a school. In my district right now, the longer you stay at that school, the more you're going to make, which is a great thing. It's a really great thing for coaches. A lot of schools don't do it that way. Okay. 26, any financial compensation for the playoffs. This is something I had to fight for at school I once worked at. I said, all right, you're paying a coach, let's say $3,000 for a 10-week season. $300 a week you're paying a coach. What happens if he goes an extra 4 weeks? He's investing an extra 4 weeks because they're going to go to a CIF championship, okay? That's 40% of his season. He's working 40% more, and they didn't pay anything, no compensation for the playoffs. Ridiculous. Why? Why do coaches, it's one of the only industries in the world, right, where you see this. You have a great season. You have a tremendous season. Your company is being rewarded with extra playing time, and your company says, great job, we're not paying you. We're not compensating you. I've worked for a district, they gave you an extra $100 a week. So, $100 a week. So I tried explaining to my administration of this school, and luckily, they saw my point of view. I went out and did some research. I was able to provide them with some good numbers on how many programs out there paid their coaches for the playoffs as well. And, there's some that do, it's pretty neat. Some districts will do 10% of your stipend you get each week you're in the playoffs. That's a good thing, okay? Because that's, they're just breaking it down that way. But I'm saying, man, you guys said to my admin there at that school, you do realize you encourage programs to be poor by the way you compensate coaches. You're asking coaches to work for an entire extra month for absolutely free. That's a punishment, and it's ridiculous. It needs a change. 27, is there a budget for video production of games highlight videos? 28, what kind of video equipment is currently being used? Is there a huddle account? Do I have to raise money for that huddle account? 29, what kind of computer lab availability is there for the team? Okay. 30, where does a team watch film and hold meetings? So you can tell by those 4 questions there, I went to a school where they had never watched film as a school. As a program at the school. My first, the first week I went and asked, okay, where do we watch film? We don't. Kids do it kind of on their own. There's nowhere to do that. What the puke are you talking about? There's nowhere to do that. Okay, so folks, some people, if you've been in a really good situation, you've been at a really good school, okay, sometimes it's frustrating, man. Some of the situations out there, that's why it's good to know these questions. I'm sure there's some of these 99 questions you're like, gosh, I never thought of asking that. So make sure to download this bad boy. Where was I here? 30, where does the team, 31, what kind of transportation is used for the team to get to games? Okay, again, you might be amazed what kind of transportation issues are out there. Okay, a school I grew up at, there was like 2 vans for the training staff and, coaches, and all the extra equipment went in one. And it's like that's where I started coaching. Then I go to my next school and they're like, no way, dude, we got to fit everybody on one bus. So those are little things that become big things, right? Is there a van? Question 32. Is there a van available for equipment? Is there a router bus to transport fans to games? Okay, so when you ask some of these questions and you hear to that question right there, You guys take a Rooter bus? You help transport kids and fans off to games at all? Even if, they need to pay $10 to get on it, the answer to that tells you a lot about the program. The answer to that question tells you a lot about the school. The answer to that question tells you a lot about the community. The answer to that question tells you a lot about the administration's view of athletics. No, we've never really done that. No, we don't do that. Okay. I learned a lot about the program. I learned a lot about the school through that. Oh, yeah. No, definitely. We send a Rooter bus to every away football game, and then we also arrange for a Rooter bus for every playoff game in the whole school. Girls volleyball, basketball, it doesn't matter. Once we get to the playoffs, we arrange a Rooter bus. We want to get as many kids out to those games as possible. And I'll tell you what, those things are packed. If you don't buy your tickets the first day, you're not going to get on that Rooter bus. Okay, I just learned a whole lot about the environment I'm going into. Okay. 34, do the cheerleaders ride the bus with the team? If that's been done in the past, can we separate them for next year? As you can tell, that's a situation I've been in before. What? The cheerleaders ride the football bus with us? 35, what's the superintendent's commitment to athletics? Folks, programs rise and fall starting at the very top. 36, does the principal support athletics by attending games and communicating with coaches? 37, what's the budget for our sport like? 38, do you have input with the budget on an annual basis? 39, what fundraising is necessary to fund the things you want to do? How about the things you need to do? Folks, if you're having a fundraise for reconditioning of your helmets, if you have to fundraise for something very minimum, like transportation or officials, and you've never had to fundraise for some of those things that you just assume, oh, every school pays for officials. Every school pays for buses. Every school pays for that. And now you go to a place where you have to fundraise for every freaking thing in your program, you're going to hate that job pretty soon. Ask these questions. Who pays for reconditioning of the helmet and shoulder pads, the school or the boosters? Who pays for new uniforms when they are needed, school or boosters? 42. What does the current equipment inventory look like? Again, answer that question will tell you a lot. Athletic director might say this. You know what? I have no idea. I mean, every head coach is responsible for that. Well, did the last head coach take equipment inventory? I have no idea. It's a bad sign. It's a red flag. Or, oh, you know what? We've got an equipment guy. I can ask him. I can call him right now and ask him what's going on. Or, yep, here it is. Head coach sent in, gave me an inventory on his way out. Here you go. So those things, again, tell you a little bit about the whole environment you're walking into. 43, how old are the current uniforms? When will new ones be bought? Again, folks, some of these questions are loaded. Question 43, how old are the current uniforms? When will new ones be bought? The answer to that question tells you a lot. It was about, I think 5 years ago, we got new uniforms. And so we should be able to get another year or two out of those. Maybe 3. Man, you think you can get us 3 more years out of those, Coach? You got that answer. And then you got, the school buys brand new uniforms every 3 years for every program. Or the school will pay 50% of your uniforms every 3 years. Okay? So again, it's a loaded question. And you better be ready to ask something like that. 44, is there a football-specific logo? If not, 45, if not, can I create one for marketing pieces? I'm a big marketing guy. I think it's real important to have a good, strong marketing plan, not only for your school, but for your football program, okay? 46, what has been done in terms of leadership development for the players in the program over the last 3 years? Is this something where these kids are, pretty strong leaders, everything's going real well there, strong captains, or are you going to have to reinvent the wheel? Is there money for staff development from the school budget for clinics? Who pays for the hotel? Who pays for the food? Who pays for transportation for clinics? I can't tell you, again, enough about the loaded question that this is. is there money for staff development from the school budget clinics? I've worked in a district, folks. In one district, principals hand it totally different in each of those schools. Get this, okay? Same district, one school gave coaches a free professional development day. It means they didn't have to use their own day. Gave their coaches money per diem for food, paid for the hotel, paid for the clinic. I've worked in another school in that same district, okay? Had to use my own personal day to go to a clinic. Had to pay for all my meals. Had to pay for my hotel. Had to pay for my travel. Same district, held two totally different ways because of funding and because of, how things were led within the athletic department. So again, that question, number 47, is there money for staff development from the school budget? Who pays for hotel, food, and transportation? You're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot about that program, about that school, about that principal, about that athletic director. And these are things some coaches never think of. Maybe your current school, boy, you guys go out, you go visit 4 or 5 colleges, you go out to 3 or 4 clinics every year, you never have to spend a dime. You have a great time with your staff. And then you go into a place that goes, yeah, you got to take personal days for all those trips. No, we're not going to fly you to Oregon. You got to fundraise that on your own. No, we're not buying a Glacier staff pass. You got to pay for that on your own. No, we don't cover meals. Or, oh, yes, sir, coach, we've got $30,000 in our staff development. Right now, our teachers aren't using a whole lot of that money every year. We've got a little bit left. So I can probably get you $6,000 this offseason for your coaching staff. You can use that any way you want. Transportation, food, clinic, hotels, or, hey, it's our policy to pay for 2 clinics for every coach on campus, So, again, a lot of different ways that those questions can be answered, and you're going to learn a whole lot. 48, this one doesn't apply to a whole lot of people, but where are the home games played? Sometimes schools don't play those games on campus. 49, can I tour that facility? 50, what are the locker room facilities like? 51, is there a place for coaches to use a locker room changing facilities? 52, how far is the locker room from the field? 53, is there a field house for pregame, halftime? 54, what's the press box like? 55, how many coaches fit into that press box facility for my team? 56, is there a good place to film from the press box? 57, what other teams use the facility and field? That becomes a big issue sometimes. I'm at a school right now where we've got one football field. Everybody and their mother in the entire community uses that thing. Okay? You got, the PE teams, you got soccer, you got band, you got our football, community football. And there's no other full-size football field on our campus. So it becomes very problematic for different programs to get onto that field. Okay? So, folks, I've talked for a while here. We're coming up on 40 minutes. We've hit 48 through 57, really through 50 through 62, it looks like. 48 to 62 are all about the facilities, okay? You need to have a really, really good idea about the facility situation you're getting into. That's huge. I get into athletic trainer here. I get into booster club. I get into volunteers. I get into more equipment. I get into grades. I get into mandatory study halls. Folks, 99 questions you need to ask before taking that next coaching job. Go to 8laces.org. Again, 8laces.org/podcast. Go to my show notes to get yourself a copy of these 99 questions. I encourage you to do that. Go to my website, 8laces.org, EIGHTLACES.org, for a lot of resources that will help you as a coach. I've got a book there, an insider's guide to scoring your next coaching job, You can get that as a PDF, meaning you pay for it, you get a receipt, download it automatically as a PDF onto your device or what have you. And then I also got it as a hard copy book that I will mail to you upon your order. Either way there, however you like to receive that information. Again, an insider's guide to scoring your next coaching job. CoachFore.org, CoachFore.org, has a lot I've written about athletics on that website. And if you go to the article library and scroll down, there's a whole section on, finding that next coaching job. I hit 10 or 12 different aspects of that next coaching job. Hit me up on email, Chris, CHRIS, at 8laces, EIGHTLACES.org. If you have a question about anything here on the 99 Questions to Ask. And then on Twitter, I'm at Coach Fore, at COACHFORE. Thank you for checking out the Coach's Locker podcast with Chris Fore, episode 24.